Greetings, dear viewer, and welcome to Purposes Crossed, where I hope that people who are called by Jesus for different purposes cross paths and exchange ideas. We continue with our series of reflections on the Sermon on the Mount, and in this video, we will look at Jesus' saying about our being the light of the world. Previously, we had devoted two videos to the saying of our being the salt of the earth, a third video on the link between salt and light, and a fourth on the saying about our being the light of the world. This video, therefore, is the second one about the saying about our being the light of the world. The metaphor of light is common in the Old Testament. Sometimes it refers to deliverance, for example, in Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 16. It is used as a metaphor for good, as in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Or at other times it implies God's truth, wisdom, or instruction, as in Psalm 119, verse 105. Isaiah applies it to the servant of Yahweh in chapters 42, verse 6 and 49, verse 6, where the second passage clearly refers to Israel as a whole. And Matthew characterizes Jesus' ministry as representative of Isaiah chapter 42, verses 1 through 9. So, by saying, "You are the light of the world," Jesus is saying something quite startling. His disciples are the means by which God had chosen to bring his light. Not only that, if we, as Jesus' disciples, insist that Isaiah chapter 42, verses 1 through 9 is about Jesus, then we have also to contend with the fact that Jesus applied verse 6 to us. In other words, being the light of the world is to be described by Isaiah chapter 42, verses 1 through 9. What would this look like? For starters, Matthew quotes Isaiah 42, verses 1 through 4 in the context of Jesus' healing ministry. Hence, being the light of the world can hardly mean anything less than being agents of healing in the world. But it is also to liberate along the lines of Isaiah chapter 42, verse 7. Open the eyes of the blind, free captives from prison. So when Jesus mentions good works in verse 16, he is not talking about being disciplined in our devotional time, nor is he alluding to refraining from, say, gluttony or one of the other 7 deadly sins. What he is addressing is our joining him in his ministry of liberation. He is speaking of our willingness to speak out like the prophets and like him against the injustices of our day. And just as those who were so liberated by Jesus could not help but praise God for their deliverance, so also our good works will give rise to praise for God. Jesus also tells his disciples that they are a city on a hill, a city that cannot be hidden. Whatever we do is visible, whether we want it to be visible or not. So if we do good works and people praise God, it follows that when we don't do good works, people will not praise God. If we find excuses for not imitating Jesus and for not becoming the kind of servants described in Isaiah 42 verses 1 through 9, we will give those who are suffering, those who are ill, those who are prisoners of war, reason to question God's justice and love. This calls for a radical allegiance to Jesus. Just as the prophets condemned the injustices of the monarchy and priesthood, so also we should be discerning enough and courageous enough to indicate to the institutions around us, religious or secular, church or state, where they are going astray from God's purposes and God's character as revealed in Jesus. The question is, are we willing to take this charge, or will we find excuses for hiding?